Hello, friends. Welcome to a brand new year and a very brand new subject, a logical subject. And hope you will enjoy learning this subject with me. Uh, it's a logical subject and then a tricky one in which you will learn so many logical tricks and then maybe you will enjoy it. Before we start with the actual syllabus, let us find out what are the details of the course, what you are going to study, in what way we are going to plan it, we are going to develop different things, and then what are the goals, strategies, and ideas. So let us start with the teaching and the examination scheme. Uh, this subject is having 100 marks, 30 for in SEM, 70 for the end SEM examination, and it is also having the practical lab for 100 marks along with the subject mechatronics. So the lab course name is Microcontroller and Mechatronics Lab, which has 50 marks for term work, 50 marks for practical. We will cover this subject in 3 hours per week theory classes and then 2 hours per week per batch for practical classes. The abstract of the subject is that on completion of this course, the students will be able to develop embedded system using 8-bit microcontroller. Now what this embedded system is, we'll see in a short time. And the prerequisite for this course is the subject digital electronics, which you studied in the second year. So this is about the teaching and the examination scheme. Now about the delivery methods and the objectives of the course, we'll be using chalk and talk mostly. If the COVID-19 pandemic gets over, then if we'll be in the classroom, then we'll be using chalk and talk, or mostly we'll be using the ICT tools like the video lectures, the online lectures, then other many tools will be there which we'll be using, and then maybe online also we can arrange the expert talk, then the laboratory sessions will be there, maybe in the laboratory or virtually. The course objectives are to understand the architecture and features of a typical microcontroller. The second course objective is to understand the need of microcontrollers in real life applications. How to solve the real life problems using the microcontrollers. Then the third objective is to learn interfacing of real world peripheral devices, and the fourth objective is to study various hardware and software tools for developing applications, various applications using the microcontroller. As you know that for each course we have course outcomes, and it is a part of the outcome based education system. So the course outcomes which were defined by the Savitribai Phule Pune University team, these are three course outcomes, and then these read as I say here. On completion of the course, the student will be able to learn importance of microcontroller in designing embedded applications. The second course outcome is the student will be able to learn use of hardware and software tools, and the third course outcome is the student will be able to develop interfacing to real world devices. Out of this, what we have done is we have slightly modified the course outcomes and we have redefined these course outcomes. Instead of uh, 3 COs which were defined by Pune University, we have defined 6 course outcomes, one per unit. So the course outcomes which are redefined are: on the completion of this course, the student will be able to describe internal architecture of 8051, study its important blocks and its instruction set while programming. This is the first CO. The student will also be able to demonstrate the use of 8051 to interface LED, LCD and ADC and describe various debugging tools and explore the various blocks in IDE. The third CO is the student will be able to develop, debug, compile assembly language program of 8051 with DAC, stepper motors and various vital peripheral components. Along with 8051, you will also learn the new microcontroller from Microchip PIC18 series. So the remaining three COs are based on the new microcontroller, and the fourth CO is the student will be able to identify various blocks and components of internal architecture of PIC18 and develop, debug and compile embedded C program exploring the functional blocks of PIC18 microcontroller for a given application. The fifth CO is also related to the same microcontroller, and it is the student will be able to demonstrate the use of PIC18 to control the speed of DC motor and to display the messages on LCD and accepting the input through keypad. And the last course outcome is, on completion of the course, student will be able to design microcontroller based systems using PIC18F microcontroller by interfacing various sensors and other required peripherals. So these are the 6 course outcomes, and now let us see in what way these course outcomes are mapped with the program outcomes and also with the Bloom's taxonomy levels. So the first course outcome, which reads like describe internal architecture of 8051, study its important blocks and its instruction set while programming, is mapped with level 3 of the revised Bloom's taxonomy, and it is mapped with the 3 COs, the POs, first, second and fifth. So it is mapped with PO1, PO2 and PO5. The second CO is mapped again with level 3 with the revised Bloom's taxonomy, and it is mapped with PO1, PO3, PO5, PO12 and the PSOs 1 and 2, as it is the practical application interfacing of LED, LCD, ADC and the other devices, and describe various debugging tools and explore various blocks in IDE. So that's why it maps with many POs and both the PSOs. The third CO is again mapped with level 6 of the Bloom's taxonomy, and it is mapped with PO1, 3, 5, 12, PSO1 and PSO2. So this is how the first three COs are mapped with POs, and then the fourth one, the fourth CO is mapped with lower level of Bloom's taxonomy, as it is just to identify the blocks and develop some programs using the functional blocks of the PIC18 microcontroller family for a given application. The level of Bloom's taxonomy which is attained by this CO is 2, and it is mapped with PO1, PO2 and PO5. The fifth CO is more practical, so it is mapped with Bloom's taxonomy level 3, and the POs mapped are PO1, PO3, PO5, PO12, PSO1 and PSO2. The last CO is design microcontroller based system using PIC18F microcontroller by interfacing various sensors and the other required peripherals, is mapped with the maximum level of Bloom's taxonomy. It is level 6, and the POs mapped are PO1, PO3, PO5, PO12, PSO1 and PSO2. Now coming to the justification of this CO-PO mapping, CO1 is mapped with level 3 with PO1 because we have to use fundamentals of electronic engineering, that is digital electronics, logic gates, multiplexers, decoders, ALUs and registers to understand this topic. The topic is Introduction to Microcontroller Architecture, overview of MCS51 architecture, block diagram and explanation of 8051, port structure, memory organization, interrupt structure, timers and its modes, serial communication modes, overview of instruction set, sample programs assembly language for delay using timer and interrupts, programming timer 0, timer 1, and data transmission and reception using serial port. So these are the contents of unit 1, And as I said, for this unit we have framed CO1, which is describe internal architecture of 8051, study its important blocks and its instruction set while programming. So this is the justification of mapping of this CO with the three POs. Now coming to the second CO is at the end of this course, the student will be able to demonstrate the use of 8051 to interface LED, LCD, ADC and describe various debugging tools and explore the various blocks in IDE is mapped with PO1, PO3, PO5 and PO12 with different levels. The unit number 2 is IO port interfacing part 1, in which you will be studying interfacing of LEDs, keypad, 7 segment multiplex display, LCD, ADC 0809 and the programming of all these interfaces using the assembly language. You'll also study programming environment, study of software development toolchain, that is the IDE, and hardware debugging tools like timing analysis using logic analyzer. So this is the uh, content of unit 2, and then unit 2 uh, gives rise to CO2, and then CO2 is mapped with 1, 3, 5 and 12 PO, and these are the justifications. CO3 is mapped with again 1, 3, 5 and 12. CO3 is basically parallel port interfacing part 2, and in which you have to study the interfacing of DAC, temperature sensor, stepper motor, motion detector, relay, buzzer, opto isolators, and design of data acquisition system and frequency counter. And all these programs you will be developing in assembly language. So CO3 is mapped with 1, 3, 5 and 12, and CO3 reads as develop, debug and compile assembly language program of 8051 with DAC, stepper motors and various vital peripheral components. So this is the justification for the mapping of this CO with various POs. CO4 is mapped with PO1, PO2 and PO5. Uh, the CO4 is identify various blocks and components of internal architecture of PIC18 and develop, debug and compile embedded C program exploring the functional blocks of the PIC18 microcontroller for a given application. Unit 4, you will study the PIC microcontroller architecture, the features, comparison and selection of PIC series as per application, PIC18FXX architecture, MCU, that is the microcontroller unit, program and data memory organization, pinout diagram, reset operations, oscillator options, BOD, power down modes, and configuration bit settings, timer and its programming, brief summary of peripheral support and overview of the instruction set. So these are the contents of unit number 4, and it is mapped with PO1, PO2 and PO5. Similarly, CO5 is mapped with PO1, 3, 5 and 12. It reads as real world interfacing part 1. So in this you will be studying the port structure with programming of PIC18, then interrupt structure, legacy and priority modes of PIC18F with SFRS, interfacing of LED, LCD 4 and 8 bits and keyboard, use of timers with interrupts, CCP modes, capture, compare and PWM generation, then DC motor speed control with CCP, and you will be developing all these programs in embedded C and not in the assembly language. For 8051 we developed all the programs in assembly language. Now here we'll be developing all the programs in embedded C. The last CO is CO6, which is design microcontroller based systems using PIC18F microcontroller by interfacing various sensors and other related peripherals. It is mapped with PO1, PO3, PO5 and PO12, and the contents are real world interfacing part 2, in which we will be studying basics of serial communication protocol, study of RS232, RS485, I2C, SPI, MSSP structure, SPI and I2C, UART, sensor interfacing using ADC, RTC DS1306 with I2C and EEPROM with SPI. Then design of PIC test board and home protection system, and all these programs will be in embedded C. So this is all about the course contents, and then these COs are also mapped with the program specific outcomes. So CO2 is mapped with PSO1 and PSO2. Then CO3 is also mapped with both the PSOs. CO5 is mapped with both the PSOs, PSO1 and PSO2. And CO6 is also mapped with the two PSOs, program specific outcomes, PSO1 and PSO2. Now for this subject, we'll be using two books, and both are written by the same author, Mazidi. The title of the first book is 8051 Microcontroller and Embedded Systems. The publisher is Pearson, and we'll be using the third edition of it. The second book is also by the same author and the same publisher. The title is PIC Microcontroller and Embedded System. So these are the two textbooks which we'll be using, and then one reference book is also specified by the university, and the book is by Kenneth Ayla. The title of the book is the 8051 8051 Microcontroller. The third edition of the book is to be studied. Now, apart from the syllabus which is given by the university, we'll be studying two more topics which are beyond the syllabus, as I feel these are important and are not covered in the given syllabus. These are the various standards which are used for the microcontrollers. So maybe you must have heard about automotive grade microcontroller. So what are the various standards? How these are different than the normal microcontroller? So what are the standards which separates it from the normal microcontroller? So let us find out what are the standards of various microcontroller chips and how these are different. Then we'll also study the low cost development platforms and their importance, like Arduino, Raspberry Pi. These are the development platforms. We'll try to understand what is the importance of these platforms, and then how these are used for development of various circuits. Now coming to the activity plan, as I said, we'll be performing various experiments in the laboratory, maybe directly in the laboratory or virtually. Now virtual laboratory is available for this subject, fortunately, from IIT Bombay, and the title of it is 8051 Microcontroller and Applications. And in this you'll be able to write a program and see the output across the peripherals interfaced with the 8051 microcontroller. So we'll be studying these activities in the virtual lab. Now coming to the practicals, which practicals you'll be performing in this subject? Let us try to find out the practicals. So before we start with actual experimentation, in the first week we'll try to find out what are the tools available, what are the hardwares available, what are the hardware kits available in the laboratory, and then we'll try to get accustomed with these tools and the hardware. So just to understand on what hardware and software tools we'll be learning, the programming practices, we'll try to understand those first, and then from the next week actual practicals will start. So initially you'll write simple programs for memory transfer and then parallel port interfacing of LEDs. So different programs related to that, flashing, then counter, then BCD hex display of characteristics, and so on. Then waveform generation using DAC, digital to analog converter. Then one optional experiment is there, interfacing of multiplexed 7-segment display, which can be used for counting type of an application. So you can perform this also in the laboratory, or you can leave it. Then the next experiment is interfacing of stepper motors with 8051 8051 software delay using timer. So we'll be controlling the speed of the stepper motor by generating delay using timer, the hardware timer. Then interfacing of LCD to 8051 4-bit and 18-bit modes. Then one more experiment is there, write a program for interfacing button or a switch, LED, relay and buzzer which will function as follows. Part A is on pressing the button 1, relay and buzzer is turned on and LED start chasing from left to right. B part is on pressing button 2, relay and buzzer is turned off and the LED start changing from right to left. So a very simple and interesting program which controls the uh, various interfaces. So eighth experiment is interfacing 4x4 keypad and displaying key pressed on LCD. Then next is generate square wave using timer with interrupt. 10th experiment is interfacing serial port with PC, both side communication, and all these experiments are compulsory. One more optional experiment is there, interfacing EEPROM 24C128 using SPI to store and retrieve data. So those who are interested, they can try this experiment. And then experiment number 12 is interface analog voltage 0 to 5 volts to internal ADC and display value on LCD. So the proportional digital value proportional to the input analog voltage will be displayed on the LCD. That is the experiment. Experiment number 13 is generation of PWM signal for DC motor control. This is again optional, but you can perform it in the laboratory. And the last one, the experiment which is beyond curriculum, demo of Arduino board and Raspberry Pi 3 board. So these are the experiments which you will be performing in the laboratory for this course. I hope you'll find it very interesting to work with different hardware platforms and then to write programs in assembly language, programs in embedded C and so on. Now coming to unit number 1, actual curriculum. The title of unit number 1 is Introduction to Microcontroller Architecture. The contents are overview of MCS51 architecture, block diagram and explanation of AT51, port structure, memory organization, its interrupt structure, timers and its modes, serial communication modes, and then coming to the instruction set, overview of the instruction set, sample programs in assembly language for delay using timer and interrupt, then programming timer 0 and 1, and then data transmission and reception using the serial port. For this unit, we have framed the CO1, describe internal architecture of AT51, study its different important blocks and its instruction set while programming. As we just discussed, the CO1 is mapped with PO1, PO2 and PO5 and it is mapped with level 3 of Bloom's taxonomy. The objectives of this unit are, after completion of this unit, the students will be able to understand the basic building blocks of a microcontroller device in general. Also, they will be knowing the terminologies like embedded and external memory devices. Also, CISC and RISC processors. They will be able to know the architecture and salient features of AT51 microcontroller. So these are the unit objectives for unit number 1. Now, what are the prerequisites for this unit or for this course? First of all, you should be very good in digital electronics. So for that, we'll take a prerequisite test also. And then we'll study two simple topics, inside a computer and embedded system. So we'll try to understand what is inside a computer, how it works, and then what is the important part of this computer, that is the CPU. So what is a CPU? Whether it is a microprocessor or a microcontroller, then if it is a microprocessor, then how microcontroller is different than that, and so on. Basically the function is almost the same with some differences. And then embedded system will define. Now what is an embedded system? So we'll try to understand what embedded system is and what exactly is embedded in a system. So we'll try to understand this and then we'll move to the microcontroller. Now coming to the first part, inside the computer. So what is inside the computer? Let us try to find out. So internally we have the central processing unit in the computer. That is the most important part of the computer, that is the CPU. The function of the CPU is to execute information which is stored in memory. Apart from CPU, the computer also has the I/O devices, the input and output devices, and these devices provide a means of communicating with the CPU. These devices include the keypad, the display, the mouse, and so on. Then the most important part is the memory, because it has to store a lot of information, it has to process a lot of information, the computer. So it has memory also. The two types of memory elements are available in the computer. The first is the random access memory, which is basically a temporary storage of programs that computer is running. So it is used as a temporary storage, and it is a volatile type of memory. So the data is lost when the computer is turned off. The second type of memory is read-only memory. It contains programs and information which is essential for the operation of the computer. Now the information, once it is fed in the read-only memory, as it is a read-only memory, you cannot write into it. So it cannot be changed by the user, and it is not lost when the power is off. Like the RAM, when you switch off the computer, the data is lost. This case, the ROM, the data remains as it is, and it is called as a non-volatile memory. So these are the different parts of a computer. So this is the picture of the CPU, Intel Core i7 CPU, and this is a motherboard. This is a motherboard which shows that there are different ports using which you can connect the external device to this, and then this is the place where you put the CPU, and then these are the other peripherals, and then this is again one connector to which you can connect the other cards. So this is a simple motherboard of a computer. Oh, this is the simple block diagram. Whatever we have studied up till now, that the computer has got a CPU, then it has got memory elements and some I/O peripherals like the monitor, printer, keyboard, etc. So these are the parts of the computer, and then these are connected by the address bus and the data bus. And along with these two, we have another bus which is also called as a control bus. So the same is mentioned here. The CPU is connected to memory and the I/O through strips of wire which is called as a bus. The bus carries information from place to place, and then these are address bus, data bus, and the control bus. So this is CPU. It can read or write, and then RAM, ROM, printer, disk, monitor, keyboard. These are the memory and the I/O devices which are connected to the CPU using the address bus, the data bus, and the control bus. The address bus, for a device to be recognized by the CPU, it must be assigned an address. So each device, be it a memory or the I/O, is having a specific address, so that the computer will know that this is the device and the address of this device is this. The address assigned to a given device must be unique. So you have to assign unique address to each device, otherwise there will be ambiguity in the processing. The CPU puts the address on the address bus, and the decoding circuitry finds the device. So the CPU will float the address on the address bus, and the decoding circuitry, there is a decoding circuitry, it will find the device. In the data bus, the CPU either gets data from the device or sends data to it. So it is either way. So data can be read by the CPU or it will send data to the devices. Then there is a control bus which provides read or write signals to the device to indicate if the CPU is asking for information or it is trying to send information. The more data bus available, the better the CPU. So now you must have heard about the 8-bit CPU, 16-bit CPU. I have a 32-bit PC. I have a 64-bit computer. So you must have heard about this. So all these are the length of the data buses which are available. So it is like a highway lane. So when there are so many lanes available, the data chunking will not be there. So very easily the data will pass. More data buses means more expensive CPU as well as the more expensive computer. The average size of the data buses in CPU varies between 8 to 64. The data bus is bidirectional. It can receive or send data, and the processing power of a computer is related to the size of its buses. The more number of address lines on the bus, the larger the number of devices that can be addressed. The simple equation is that if you have X number of address lines, then the CPU can communicate with 2 raised to X addresses. So it will generate 2 raised to X addresses regardless of the size of the data bus. It is not dependent on the data bus size. For example, if a CPU is having 24 address lines and 16 data lines, it can provide total of 2 raised to 24 or 16 megabytes of addressable memory, and each location can have a maximum of 1 byte of data since all general purpose CPUs are byte addressable. The address bus is unidirectional. You cannot send data in both ways in the address bus. Now, what is the relation of CPU to RAM and ROM? For the CPU to process information, the data must be stored in RAM or ROM, which is referred to as the primary memory. The ROM provides information that is fixed and permanent. It is in the form of tables or initialization programs. And RAM stores the information that is not permanent and can change with time. So these are the two forms of the memories which are available, and various versions of operating systems and application packages are available, and then CPU gets information which is to be processed first from RAM or ROM, and then if it is not there, then it seeks it from other mass storage devices which are called as the secondary memory devices like the hard disk, and transfers the information to the RAM, and then it is processed. Again, inside the CPU we have registers. The CPU uses registers to store information temporarily, values to be processed, address of value to be fetched from memory, and in general the more and bigger the registers, the better the CPU. So registers can be 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit or 64-bit. The disadvantage of more and bigger registers is that the increased cost of such CPU. So this is a simple architecture of a CPU. It is having an arithmetic logic unit, then it generates flags, then it is connected through internal buses to the instruction register, the program counter, and different general purpose registers like register A, B, C, D, and so on. So this is the simple internal diagram of CPU. ALU, that is the arithmetic logic unit, performs arithmetic as well as the logical functions on the data which is available. So arithmetic functions like add, subtract, multiply and divide, and logical functions such as and, or, and not. Then we have a program counter. The program counter points to the address of the next instruction which is to be executed, and as each instruction is executed, the program counter is incremented to the next address where the next instruction is stored which is to be executed. Then instruction decoder is one important part. It interprets the instruction fetched into the CPU, and then the CPU is capable of understanding more instructions requires more transistors to design the instruction decoder. So instruction decoder decodes the instruction, and then accordingly the CPU will perform various operations. Now how the computer works, let us say a CPU has 4 registers A, B, C and D, and it has 8-bit data bus and 16-bit address bus. The CPU can access memory from addresses 0000 to FFFF. That means it is capable of addressing 2 raised to 16 memory bus addresses. Assume that the code for the CPU to move a value to a register A is B0. Let us say there is a code B0. When it is executed, some value which is mentioned in the instruction code will be transferred to register A. For adding the value to register A, is 04. Another instruction is there. If I have to add some number to the value which is already present in register A, the code is 04. So there are two instructions. One is move instruction, which will move data to register A. The code is B0. And then the other instruction is add, which will add some number to register A. And the code for that instruction is 04. Now the action to be performed is to put 21 hex into register A, and then we have to add register A with 42 and 12. So these are the numbers which are to be added with register A. So what are the actions required? Move value 21 hex into register A. We know that the code for move is B0 and the data which is to be moved is 21. Then we have to add value 42 hex to register A. We know that the code for executing this instruction, add instruction, is 04, and what we have to add, the data is 42. And then second instruction is add value 12h to register A. Again the code for the instruction is 04 and the data is 12. So let us say the memory address starts at 1400 location. So the first code which will be available in the memory location will be B0, which is for moving the value to a register A. Then the next will be the value which is to be moved, that is 21. Then 1402 will have a code 04, which is for adding a value to register A, and the value to be added is 42. And similarly the next instruction is 04, which adds some value to register A, and the value to be added is 12. And the last instruction is halt. So the actions performed by CPU are as follows. The program counter, which points to the next memory which is to be executed, will point to the value location 1400, indicating the address of the first instruction code that is to be executed. Then the CPU puts 1400H on the address bus and sends it out. So the memory circuitry finds the location, and then the CPU also activates the read signal so that whatever data will be available in the address bus which comes from the location 1400 will be read by the CPU, indicating to memory that it wants a byte at location 1400H. Now this will cause the contents of the memory location 1400, that is B0, that is the instruction, it is put on the data bus, and the CPU decodes the instruction B0. It senses that the instruction says that I have to move some data to register A, and the data will be available in the next cycle. So the CPU commands the controller circuitry to bring into register A of the CPU and the byte in the next memory location. So the value 21 which is in the next memory location, that is 1401, goes to register A. Next, the program counter points to the address of the next instruction, that is 1402. The contents of 1402 are fetched, and then these are sent to the CPU. So it fetches 04, which says that after decoding, the CPU knows that it must add the contents of register A with the byte sitting at the next address, that is 1403. After the CPU brings the value 42, it provides the contents of register A along with the value to the ALU to perform the addition, and then after the addition, the result is put in register A. Then the program counter becomes 1404, and the next instruction is executed, which is also again add instruction, and the contents of register A will be added to the contents of the next memory location, which is 12. So the addition is performed, and the last instruction is halt, which tells the CPU to stop incrementing the program counter and asking for the next instruction. So this is how the instructions are fetched, data is fetched, it is decoded, the instruction, and then the operations are performed on the data. So this is how the computer works. This is for the previous initial part of the course, and maybe in the next lecture we will study the embedded system. What is an embedded system? What is a system? What is an embedded system? And how it works? What are the advantages, disadvantages, and what are the applications? And then we'll move to the actual topic, microcontrollers. I hope you will find it interesting. Thank you.